All right, so this is assignment 12, part 2, and we're going to be looking at the sentiment analysis and the heat map. So basically what we got going on here for a quick overview, we use just the straight up unfiltered restaurant reviews data to put in our corpus here, then use the sentiment analysis to analyze the verbiage used in the reviews and how it correlated to like and dislike. And then from that point on, we got this heat map here with some different clusters going on. We got 5 distinct clusters that we were looking at. So the first one starting from the top and going about to where I end here, being the first one, or excuse me, kind of more down here. And then we kind of got this second one going on here, and then the third, and fourth and fifth. So the blues are the negative, the green is the neutral, and the yellow is the positive. So we can see that, just from a first glance overall, I would say close to half are positive, close to half, so about 50%. And then you probably got from there, I would say maybe, yeah, I'd say maybe another 25% are neutral and 25% are negative. Somewhere in there, maybe, 15% negative, But yeah, looking at those, 50% positive, that's pretty good considering that you kind of probably got a buffer of 25 to 30, 35% of neutral, and then negatives being on the proportionally less side. But still, I'd say a notable amount in there just looking at it. And so I checked out from there with our heat map. We can select a section and then go into our corpus viewer, and we can see how Orange is breaking down these statements and how accurate they were. So I did that for all the sections, just kind of looking through the first 10 just to see how many they missed. I think if I had a little bit more time, I'd probably maybe take a little bigger sample size than that if possible. But just looking through the first 10 on here, I would say from what I saw in the positives, it was pretty good. Pretty much all of these are spot on. I'd say this one, yeah, this is pretty accurate. 50% neutral, 50% positive about, yeah, it's pretty accurate. Service was fine. Fine, I would consider more of a neutral word. Not bad, but not great. Waitress was friendly. Friendly would be, something I consider positive. So half the sentence neutral, half the sentence positive. It makes sense. And, a lot of these, pretty much all of them be positive. They make sense as to why they are in this positive section. And we are, if we kind of look back on our selection here, we are a little bit kind of below the most positive that we have at the top here. So, yeah, I felt looking through these that when it came to the strongly positive and strongly negative areas, strongly positive, strongly negative, it was pretty accurate. I would say 80% probably of what I saw in there. So, this is one of those examples looking at this here where we look a little off. So this is saying don't go there if you're looking for good food. You can see how the word good, probably got this little positive value, and then, a lot of these other words are pretty neutral. Don't, I mean, that's a pretty strong negative word. Yeah, and I mean, this is a negative one, so this would be kind of another miss there. But yeah, I would say from what I saw overall, without going into looking at all these on the video, I would say about 70 to 80% of accuracy for words that were strongly positive or strongly negative. Where I did think it was really interesting is in this neutral section, in this green. I found a lot of these were really negative, actually. It didn't seem very neutral. I feel like neutrality in these statements, a lot of times when people are writing reviews, they don't want to write a neutral review. You're not motivated to go out of your way to get online and write about something if you feel just like okay about it. Typically, you're either going to feel very strongly about it or very negatively. But I did think it was just interesting to see that these are all just very negative. A lot of these. I mean, this one I could, yeah, it seems neutral, pretty neutral, still negative, I would say. Underwhelming. I think I'll just go somewhere else next time. That's not too bad, but I would probably still classify as negative. But I mean, this one to be classified as a completely neutral, appetite instantly gone, yeah, that's definitely negative. And yeah, so that is what I found pretty interesting in that section. And I don't think it's super important in at least this context to have the highest accuracy evaluating neutral statements. And maybe it's worth looking at if you're trying to review this and see, what percentage of the reviews that we get are positive, negative, and neutral. I think then maybe you want to look in here and be like, oh, well, if you're using something like this as a tool to analyze that, you would be like, oh, well, maybe we can't count these neutrals, or we got to count them in a different way, or make up for the fact that a lot of them are being read as neutral statements when in fact they're negative. So I guess in that context, kind of skews the interpretation of the data a little bit. I think if we're just looking at the very strong and very negative, or strongly positive and strongly negative reviews, Orange does a really good job of finding those in there, and then in identifying them correctly. But then in the neutral, if we're looking at neutral and we care about neutral, Orange does not do a good job. Which, I mean, it makes sense to be really hard to, but yeah, it does not do a great job correctly anticipating what those are, what the meanings of them are through the sentiment analysis. So let me just check really quick here, make sure I got everything here. Yeah, so I guess just to answer if I think they did good, I think I just revert back to, kind of what I was mentioning, in the fact that it depends on, if you care about the neutrals. And I would say overall it did okay. It did okay at best. Maybe even faring a little more to the poor side. I guess thinking about it more now and thinking about these neutral statements actually being negative. This is a very large portion of reviews that might be considered, that looking at it you might think are borderline, maybe one, not fencing one way or another, when in reality they're actually negative. So that might actually have really skew the story that these are telling. So I think it has potential to be used well in this setting with these neutral reviews. I don't think it was that great. So that's what I got for this part here. It's a super interesting tool. I find it really fascinating being able to break down these words and, again, interpret the human meaning behind words and the emotion behind something in a literal capacity as the computer reads it.